Yes.
Uh,
Hey, good
it's
morning,
not.
everyone. This is Mohammed.
Hi, Mohammed. Good morning.
Good
Mohammed.
morning. Thank you.
What time is it where you are, Mohammed?
Oh, it's only 7:30.
All right, all right.
Not as bad as Tanya's.
No.
Okay. And in India, it's 7 p.m.
7 p.m. Okay. And in Australia?
Must be 12 something.
Tanya, was here in the Netherlands. It's 2:30 in the afternoon.
2:30, yeah.
Yeah, and raining. So
Yeah, she'll be right there. Huh? Okay, bye.
moet je weer toetsenbord hebben?
Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
John, good afternoon.
Good. Good to see everybody. Very good.
Small group or doing?
Yeah, we've got the doctor from Australia, I believe, is going to join us late. There was a travel issue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so anyway, here we go. What do you say? Get it going?
Yeah, we are missing one more. I think Nella, we are missing.
Naila.
Yes, because
Yeah.
yesterday we were at 12 and today we are 10.
Yeah. I think she'll be joining though. But anyway, I hope everybody's well. Hey, we're gonna really hit some great stuff today. But key takeaways from yesterday, kind of reflecting back on what we covered, what resonated with you as you think back about what we talked about. Anybody want to get us going here in terms of what really hit you?
Yes. One thing which struck with me was co-discovery, and I was waiting for you for this session today and to ask you a question. Can you please share a real-time example, something where you did your assessment 360, everything was done, and you had something to share. However, at the end of the code discovery, something else came out. And how did it go? That was very, very interesting for me.
Yeah. So there are just numerous examples. In fact, Pushpa, when we get into a little bit of a role play, accelerated role play, shortly, I will reflect that. But what's pretty typical is that as a coach, you've got like in your mind certain connections from the data, from the 360 and the objective assessments, the inner core assessments, Pushpa, and you generate some hypotheses from all of that, including the interview. And what always strikes me is that even though the client doesn't know the instruments, the assessments like we do, they've got something that we don't have, which is experiences and context that enable them, you see what I'm saying, to actually dispute hypotheses. And so, they'll use examples and experiences which will cause you, the coach, to say, I've got to be open to disputing this hypothesis. You see what I'm saying? And literally over a lengthy debrief, which we'll get into, but also this 30-day period post the debrief, which is, I call the magical 30-day period, where honestly, I'd say more reflection and more change is instigated in those 30 days, because you're allowing that client to access the context in their examples and their references to even establish more clarity around what their gifts are that, we're going to work on, and also development needs. So that would be just a high level, very, very typical. You've got to be open to context and experiences as a coach. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. Just one more. You talked about leading metrics yesterday. Can you please share some example, or can you elaborate little bit?
On the leading, the leading indicators.
Leading indicators, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you optimize leadership, let's say in the form of executive coaching, and you strengthen leadership, and you strengthen talent, and you strengthen culture, there's been multiple statistical studies that have been done by McKinsey, Boston Consulting Group, for many, many years, that establishes the algorithmic relationships between what it is that we're all about, Pushpa, leadership, talent, and culture, and ultimate operating success. We have also done a little bit of that research. Certainly more's got to be done from John Mattone Global standpoint. But today I'm going to share with you a model called the Stealth model. And that model's going to, I think, put into place a visual that's very powerful, that when you look at it, makes a lot of sense around why these studies constantly come back to those leading indicators and not artificial intelligence. Interesting, right? So
Thank you.
I'll show you the model here shortly. Yeah, that's
Thank
good.
you, sir.
You got to start it good, really good. Anybody else? Hey, Larry, good to see you.
Good to see you too. I think just you asked about what landed with us yesterday, and I really like that whole concept of showing impact. Like you said, nobody does that, and even the coach I've used I've used 2 or 3 different coaches in my career.
Yep.
And the last one, the one I'm with now, measures impact. Probably does it in a different way than you do, but so rare, and just the fact that that's kind of the foundation of what we're learning is pretty exciting.
I appreciate that. It's helped grow the brand. It really has. We can actually demonstrate percentage improvement, Larry. And I'll show you this tomorrow. I'm going to show you sample LeaderWatch reports. And by the way, for all of you, as IL coaches, once you get into this and you start utilizing the LeaderWatch tool, right, which is a trademarked instrument, what ends up happening is we work with you, Larry, so you'll connect with our team, more on that later. But if you say, hey, it's LeaderWatch time, we organize all of that for you in terms of the distribution of the link, so that the stakeholders can hit that link, right, and rate the leader on degree of improvement or decline, for that matter, and also offer their anonymous narrative comments. We aggregate that data and we generate a report for you. It's called the LeaderWatch report. It goes back to you, and what you do is you now take that report, you debrief it with your executive. We've got an IO psychologist on the staff here, Nina. She's actually just finishing her PhD. That's my background too. But we actually can convert degree of improvement into percentage improvement. It's very powerful. In fact, if you look at the JMG website, you can see that across certain competencies, if you work with an IL coach for 6 months or longer, there's no leader in the world that is not improved anywhere. So back to your point, right? The power of measuring is powerful for the work that we do, but also generates a lot of credibility for you, the coach, and also JMG. It also generates more business, period, end of story, which is not bad. That's not a bad thing,
No, no.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Hey, Nicholas, how you doing?
Hi, thanks.
Good to see you.
Well, saying, well, what resonated in me from yesterday maybe was you. I mean, the human part. Yes, because maybe the engineering part in myself, I was expecting going deep into the process and so,
Mechanical. Yeah, you get it. Mhm.
but I realized that the main things in coaching is the human being, and hearing you and seeing you as a role model. I mean, the way you were appreciating us,
Thank you.
everything, the way you were sharing stories, and we were learning about through that, and so it was such an amazing process that I mean I was strike inside. I mean, and I want to share that because I guess my analytical mind maybe was there, but what get me was the soul.
That's powerful. It means a lot,
Thank you for that.
Nicholas. You've touched my soul with those words. I will tell you that. And you've actually put the finger on the pulse here. Yes, and all of you know this, there is an art and a science. It's a blend. And yeah, we're going to peel away the layers of the process, Nicholas. And listen, I've worked with quite a few executives over the world with the engineering background. They love IL, because there's a system, there's a system and there's a process and there's measurement, But in the end, you got to bring your heart and soul as a coach. And you're absolutely right. The blending is of utmost importance. Thank you. Hi, Lawrence.
Good afternoon.
Lawrence from
Yes.
the Netherlands.
Yeah, Lawrence NL, Lawrence Dutch.
Yeah,
Yes.
there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. No, when I didn't, I don't know if you heard it already. I made a joke at the beginning when everybody was logging in. I said, was I the only one who dreamed about John last night, or had more people? But I dreamed it in a proper way, John. Don't get me wrong. But that was a good way. And what resonates for me was the connection between the inner core and the outer core. That thing. I see that for so many years in my work and with employees I work with and negotiations with people, everything, that connection. And it's so important that we as a team focus on that element, because the world is very much, I think, focused on the outer core these days.
Big time.
And in one way, everybody knows it starts all with the inner core. And so it's important, I think, to have coaches and leaders who know that that connection. And I checked because we were talking yesterday about Marshall Goldsmith, and Hogan, the Hogan way.
Yeah.
And not good or bad, but the Hogan way is very mathematic. I think.
It is. It is.
Is that correct? Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, and Marshall Goldsmith is more, I think, in line with what you are talking about.
I would say.
Yeah.
So
for me, to have the spectrum a little bit more clear.
Marshall is absolutely stakeholder oriented. That's the core of his thinking, which is beautiful. I think Marshall, from the standpoint of measurement and objective assessments, probably stays away from that stuff.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? More than we do.
Yeah.
This is no negative against Marshall, obviously.
No.
Legend,
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
But yeah, so the Hogan is very, very deep. And the research done on the Hogan, is incredible. I know the Hogans. These people live in Florida, and
Yeah.
every now and then I meet with them. I'm so impressed with the work they've done. But a lot of coaches get confused with the depth of the whole. It's very, very complex. And
Yeah.
if you know what I'm saying, if you struggle as a coach understanding the Hogan, even you get certified, you can get certified in the Hogan, still not understand the concept,
Yeah.
There's a lot of variability in interpretation. My experiences with the Hogan. I used to do the Hogan. I got away from it. So at JMG, we use the Emily I. And then I
Yeah.
mentioned one yesterday. Remember I talked about the CPI 260,
Yeah.
California. That's a
Yeah.
really, really good instrument. And
I checked their website as well yesterday.
yeah. And we can help you with that too. If you
Yeah.
folks want to use the CPI, it's very easy, Lawrence, to interpret.
Yeah.
Very easy, but
Yeah.
it's deep. It's very, very good.
No,
So,
that's good. And to
yeah.
be honest, your approach with the connection between heart, soul, and etc. I think that's in the end what I think you want to be a coach because you have some feeling in your body, in your heart, and in your mind. That's why you want to be a coach.
Yeah.
You have that feeling for other human beings, and I think that connects with your way of approaching these things. Yes.
Great
Okay, I'll be
stuff.
quiet. I'll be
No,
quiet.
great stuff. Great
Yeah.
stuff. But the other Lawrence has got something to say. How
Yeah.
you doing from France?
Yes. Hello, everyone. What impressed me yesterday is so few slides and so much presence. So it brought me back to why do people buy to work with us? And I thought it's so important to connect at the beginning and the tools come after.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the second thing is you said something very interesting for me. You said we don't sell sessions, we sell transformation.
Yes.
And it makes me think to how I'm selling my business today.
Yep.
And it's very inspiring because it's not about money, how much is the price. It's a very different way to connect to people who need. And there is a third thing, which was
Right.
very inspiring, is when you talked about Steve Jobs, who told you, I should have done that when I was 30 or 40. I thought I must focus on younger clients.
Yeah.
Because today I think I'm working with settled people.
Yeah.
And I think there are people who are like, they have a potential and we can reveal them. And then the world can be very different. So I would think
you're inspiring me. So you're inspiring me, and I know you're inspiring everybody here with what you just said. There is what you just said. The young talent in the world, it's incredible. Absolutely. They need us. They need us. And the work that we do as coaches can amp them up. And ultimately, we do have in sight, I think, the ability to close the leadership gap in the world. And I do believe that our answers with the young people. Very well said. You just made my day, Lawrence. You just made my day.
You helped me.
See, everybody's smiling here saying, yeah, it's the young people, right? Incredible. Thank you very, very much.
Well, it's inspiration. You gave it to me.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Mohammed, how you doing today?
John, I'm doing well. Thank you so much. And good morning to everyone.
Good.
So I really did, it resonated what Lawrence Thomas and Lawrence and Nicholas were saying this morning about really what they can remember from yesterday's meeting. But what I've learned at a young age as a salesperson in Seattle, Washington, from one of the owners who we sold our services and products to, is the owner who was at the time an older gentleman got hold of my hand and said, Muhammad Ali, don't you know people buy from those they like? And at the time I didn't know, but later on in life, when I got into the soft skills and human behavior and emotional intelligence, I learned what that man was saying to me, which is partially what we talked about yesterday, that even selling is emotional, right?
Very much so.
And so it's just how you approach and how you make people feel. That's what's unforgettable. It's how you make them feel. And as coaches, I think that's the essence of coaching, to bring the best out of people. And then from what all of you were saying, to them to believe that you are capable of actually getting someone to see the best in them.
Yes.
That's all I was going to say. Thank you.
That's good. I like that. We're going to build on that here, Mohammed, here in a second. Great stuff, everybody. Thank you. Listen, real quick slide here. You can see the evolution. We don't need to read it, but it's been a long journey. It's kind of interesting. A lot of people say, "Boy, Mattone, you kind of came out of nowhere. 2011, you start JMG, and nobody even knew about you, and this and that." And pretty much true, But if you reflect back, really, the IL journey started in 1996. Little did I know in 1996 that what we have all created in terms of intelligent leadership has emerged, and is impacting the world, humbly said, in a really positive way. So I kind of pinched myself quite a bit, kind of looking at this. Success Yourself didn't work. The book was, you can still get this book, believe it or not. There's still some copies floating around. It's funny. It wasn't all that well written, to be quite honest with you. And there wasn't enough research either, okay? But I knew in my work with Steve Jobs, because I was applying the concepts in my 5 coaching sessions with him, that it was resonating. So I knew I had something. I just didn't know what I had. Honestly, I really didn't. And so the evolution of this was that as I grew as a person, got more mature, and started to really dig into doing much more research, and then obviously the decision to start JMG, I said, I'm going to rewrite Success Yourself into intelligent leadership. And that's the book you see right there in the middle, everybody, 2013. That book was a much better book because there was more experience for me and more research. And the other thing is, remember yesterday we were talking about helping our clients translate what we help them show about their soul into actionable strategies. Remember we talked about that, Shalini, yesterday, where we got to make it practical. When you see the Intelligent Leadership book, and we can get you PDFs of the book too, okay? You will see very practical strategies that your clients can execute daily that enables them to mature those traits, right? That then ignite the probability of driving greatness in the outer core, okay? That was the key. I would say Success Yourself, the strategies were kind of weak, okay? Honestly. That's why this book became a bestseller. By the way, none of my books have become New York Times or Wall Street Journal. None of them. All of them have done very, very well. I'm sure a lot of you know this. There's a lot of bestseller books out there, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and they hit the list once. And you never hear from that person, or you never hear about the book again, okay? There's ways to get your book on the Wall Street Journal list, okay? The key test is, does the book have legs? Does that make sense, Mohammed? The book's got to have legs. And I'm really, really proud to say that even though Intelligent Leadership never hit the big bestseller list, it continues to sell extremely well today, okay? The Intelligent Leader was written in 2019. This book came very, very close to the Wall Street Journal list. But this book has legs too, and that was probably my best book. And so again, we can get you PDFs of these two books. So anyway, just wanted to share that. Does this any questions on this make sense? Anybody, any comments to the journey?
It's very Shalini, you want to go ahead? Okay, so I am
Please go ahead.
Okay, we're gonna go Pushpa and then Shalini.
reading. Yeah, I have the PDF for this book as well as I'm hearing it in Audible, and it is very interesting. I just started, so
Very nice.
very, very nice.
The Intelligent Leader?
Yes, and apart from that, there is a handbook from you as well, so I'm reading that as well.
Very nice, Pushpa. I'm impressed. Thank you. Very, very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Shalini.
The one which I have in Audible is The Intelligent Leader. The Intelligent Leader.
Yeah, which is the 2019 book, right?
2020, it's written here. Yeah, possibly. The Intelligent Leader.
Yeah. So I think that's my best book, okay? Because it was written, right, in actual intelligent leadership was more written by an industrial psychologist, me, okay? It's mechanical, very mechanical, deep. This was more readable. Let me put it that way. Wouldn't you agree? More readable?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Very, very nice. Shalini, how you doing?
Doing very good, John. Thank you.
Good.
John, just wanted to share that I've always been a fan of the Seven Habits book.
Big time.
And today morning, I was reading The Intelligent Leader, and it really, really brought the shift inside me. And it was amazing. So after, as far as executive coaching goes, I thought this was a brilliant book. It brought in so much of clarity.
Thank you.
It brought in a shift, and I realized, the 7 pillars.
Yeah.
And, so I feel as a coach, I've been doing this, and I feel, okay, I've prepped enough. And then I realized I'm not, and that book created the 7 pillars, created that awareness.
Nice.
So it was amazing. Very, very well written, John. So thank you so much. Brilliant book.
Means a lot. Thank you so much, Shalini. Incredible. Thank you very, very much. So listen, we're all together now, on this journey as members of the Matone IL family. And we gotta lock hearts, minds, souls, and arms, to close the leadership gap. We can do it as executive coaches. I really believe that, and life coaches as well, So speaking of the Shalini, right, one of the first chapters in the book is about this concept of getting out of our comfort zone, right? And all of you as coaches know how critical it is to ignite change in our clients. And change is actually interesting. It could be, you got to change from A to B, right? But it also is that change could also be just getting better, And so change, we've got to ignite the mindset and the belief in our clients. Mohammed, I like your word earlier about I don't know if you used this exact word, but it was about belief. You got to ignite belief, right? Belief. If somebody thinks that they can do something, that's not good enough, right? You can walk around all day and have positive thinking, but if you don't believe in the depths of your soul that you can execute what needs to be executed, right? Whether you're a parent, whether you're a leader, whether you're an athlete, it doesn't matter your pursuit in life. The key to action is belief, right? So it's been interesting, Shalini, as I wrote that book, kind of reflecting back on my executive coaching journey, how pivotal this is in the work that we do as coaches, is getting our clients to embrace this concept, embrace it, right? Internalize it, and to really move on it. So this is a big one right here. So we'd just like to get some thoughts from the team here about, how does this resonate with you, number one? And number two, in your work doing this, what has worked? What has worked with clients to get them out of their comfort zone and embrace a whole new vision? You know what I'm saying, Hadi? That offers the prospect of even greater pleasure, right? That's the key to change, right? Is getting people to move from this world to another world that offers the prospect of more beauty. That's really what we're talking about here. So really two questions there. Anybody want to get us started?
I can go. However,
Beautiful,
it's not
Dominic.
about
How you doing? You doing good, Dominic?
good, thanks.
Good.
Good, thank you. It's not about clients because I don't coach any clients, but I've worked in different organizations.
Yes.
And I have observed that many chiefs, many leaders are in need of help. And I think it all starts with humility of, like saying, I need help. It doesn't mean because I'm the CEO, I can do whatever I want here. I reach this level, I'm done. I don't need to improve. And unfortunately, and you mentioned it in your book because I also heard the audio book before the course, the relationship between the leadership and the culture. The people right on top have, of course, a huge impact on the culture, and if that is weak, no matter what you're going to try to fix down the hierarchy or within the or whatever, is going to be always impacted.
Big time.
That's my observation.
Amazing. I'm with you 100%, tracking with you 100%. Excellent. Anybody else?
John, how big is big?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, it's a good question.
because so you said that can we ignite belief in people to think or to achieve big or to think big, right? Can you please elaborate in that statement, because it can be interpreted in a different ways.
It can. It's a moving target, and a lot depends on certainly the level that you're coaching at. This notion of where people's mindset, and I'm sure you've seen this, Pushpa, a lot of people's mindset around growth and getting better comes down to almost a selfish pursuit in many respects. It is what it is that I want. You know what I'm saying? When I'm talking about thinking big, I think the common denominator here across every human being is what is the vision of the essence of the person, leader, organization that we must create. It's not about what we want to create. You know what I'm saying? Everybody pursues want. But when you think about a level that is superordinate, I hope this is making sense around this is what we must create, non-negotiable, a maniacal pursuit, will ignite innovation and creativity. And obviously what makes it practical is, what exactly does that mean in the individual leadership development plan? But I think the starting point is getting our clients to eliminate this thinking that's limiting around, hey, this is what I want. And it's the same thing when I work with C-level teams, when they start talking about the vision and what they're trying to create. And every time a C-level executive says, this is really what we want here, And I'm always challenging them to think bigger around must, because you have a responsibility. Who just said that? Somebody just said that. Dominic just said that, right? The C-level team's got a responsibility to everybody else, massive responsibility, and should be held accountable for creating abundance and touching hearts, minds, and souls in a positive way. What does that look like? Does that make sense, Pushpa? High level? I talk about it in the book a little bit.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes.
That's great.
John, John, are we saying that goals can be limiting, and you can go beyond your goals and paint your dreams and go that big,
I
as
like
big
that.
as you can?
I like it. I like it. You know, the other notion that you just made me think about, Shalini, remember yesterday I talked about masterpiece?
Yes.
That's a game changer. That's been a game changer in IL is, you know, because humbly I work with a lot of accomplished people. And, you know, what really, really ignites them is the story around Steve Jobs. That's a game changer. You know, when I share that privately with my clients, that obviously gives them goosebumps. But I always talk about, and I talk about this, by the way, in the pre-sales process, in the proposals, it's all there. And by the way, you're going to get sample proposals too, you know, in your Google Drive. You're going to have access to all the stuff, you know, that can help you. But, you know, dealing with somebody, you want to praise people for their accomplishments. Congratulations, you're well on your way to creating your masterpiece, but you're not there yet. Boom, you're not there yet. Be proud of what you've accomplished. And I've worked with 70, 72-year-old people in the world who have accomplished incredible things. Yet, when we get into this notion of, hey, you know, the masterpiece, you haven't done it yet. Your legacy's not complete yet. There's more that you've got to do. Period. End of story. And then immediately that always ignites them and wakes them up to, boy, you know something, you're right. I have accomplished a lot, but there's more. There's more that I can do. Yes, you can. And we're going to do it together. You know, so that's that notion. You got me thinking about that, Shalini. Thank you.
And John, maybe we look at from the lens of altruism.
Yep.
Is that
Big
fair
time.
to say that? Okay. Yeah.
Being very other oriented. Exactly. Absolutely. Which we'll talk about here shortly. The value of altruism is embedded in that trait called the helper trait. And if you're going to be a great leader, that helper trait's got to be active and mature. And the problem is in the world today, and we'll see this in the data, the helper trait compared to the other 8 traits, these 8 traits, these 9 traits are engines within our soul, and they ignite energy. And the helper trait lags the statistics in the other traits. So, Shalini, what is missing, in fact, in the world of leadership is altruism, authentic altruism. And guess what? If that altruism value is not embraced, how in the world are you going to behave in a compassionate way? You know what I'm saying? It starts within the values and the character. Behaviors follow from that. Great point. Mohammed. Can't hear you, Mohammed. You're on mute. Oh my, all right. Mohammed's got a technical difficulty. You'll come back at this. All right. Okay. Any other thoughts on this? What do you do as a coach to get somebody to start thinking about change? Anybody? How do you ignite the belief of change? What do you do? Hi, Lawrence. Lawrence from France. Yes.
Thank you. What's coming to me is sometimes when client comes with a question, and when we have a very authentic sharing, the real question more deeper, appears. And this is the right bigger thinking, the second one. And it's a real coaching. I think the more important step is just this moment when it's appearing, and after it's okay. The way will build on itself.
Yeah, very, very well said. And I agree with you 100%. Your questioning and how you follow up can, without question, get somebody from limiting thinking, right, and limited beliefs to embracing a whole new level of perspective, you know, and it sounds like that's what you do, Lawrence, in your work. I think that's wonderful. Anything else that you wanted to share on that?
Sorry, my words are not very precise, but I think it's not a linear process, because sometimes at the moment, sometimes very decisive is appearing, and what we will do after is not so important. What we did before was more about human connection.
Yeah.
If I should draw it, it's like something really big is happening here, and after it's like
yeah, I get it.
I don't know how to say it in English. It's like it's done. It's okay. That's all very well done. And it's the presence we have is very different in the next steps. It's more supporting, or at the beginning it's more diving.
Yeah.
So it's very different. I mean, I don't know if it's
No, I'm tracking with you. I am. I'm tracking with you. Lawrence from the Netherlands.
Yes. I think it's always also important if you start to work with, if it's a school or a student or executive or whoever, that you find out what's the question behind the question. You know, that's always very, very, if you start working with people. And in the end, I think what also works and what you see is that a lot of people want to have purpose in their life. Everybody wants to have purpose in their life. The purpose can be different for everybody, you know, because different things are important for different people. But John, for example, if people work in an industry that's not really, in general, let's say the tobacco industry, you can have all discussions about it, but I can imagine if people work there, that they don't always have the feeling that they're doing good things for the world, etc., etc.
Right.
Is that I have the luck that I always work with people. I think 95% of the people I work with are really passionate about what they're doing in a company they're passionate about, etc.
Sure.
How do you handle people working in industries that are difficult? Do you have to deal with that as well as a coach? And how do they get purpose? Because what works, etc. It starts with purpose. That's an answer on your question.
It does.
It does. Purpose.
It does. Ultimately, you want to make sure, and it's not always going to be perfect alignment here, Lawrence, you know. The key to igniting passion and drive, in my experience with any human being, is getting them to connect and begin to peel away the layers at understanding what their core purpose is. Okay, that's a big gap in the world. Most people walk around the planet and they don't know what their purpose is. Most people die and they never discovered their purpose, right? Most people leave the earth, they've never created a masterpiece, you know, at all. So what's interesting is that, boy, if you can get somebody moving in that direction, and even during a 9 or 12-month coaching assignment, you may not actually arrive at them actually crafting their core purpose statement and arriving at that. Okay. But if you can get them moving in that direction, that superordinate goal, the vision, mission, purpose, the masterpiece, what does that look like for me? Right. Begin to put some depth on that. and then co-create the strategy, the practical strategy in their work that they know that every day they take these steps. They're not only improving as a leader, Lawrence, but they're also one step closer to achieving their ultimate vision, right? That's one level of alignment that really ignites passion. But the point that you're bringing up is you've also got to make sure that what it is that they're working on is also aligned with the vision, mission, purpose of the organization. Okay.
Yeah.
So if they're working in an industry where they're not bought into it, right, it's going to degrade the power of the coaching. So therefore, when I work as an executive, we're pretty selective around the industries we want to work in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think that's a very good point. That's a very good point. Shalini.
Yes, John. So just wanted to share that, as far as my experience goes in life coaching, I believe it's disruption in the client's life, and dissatisfaction that drives change. I try to connect that with purpose. I mean, that's an opportunity for me to see if the client would want to go as deep dive into his or her purpose.
Yeah.
And that is what drives change and helps you set goals and co-create strategies.
Would you agree that you've got to get your client to realize that the current situation is exacting pain?
For a reason.
Yes.
For a reason.
Talk more. Go ahead.
For a reason. And I have a fundamental belief, John, that you can achieve anything. You can do anything.
And that's why you're the coach that you are. Absolutely.
So that, and if you're facing pain and if you're not getting what you want, then there is a reason. And you have to wait to see that reason. The reason could be maybe it's purpose. The reason is maybe you're not in touch with your inner core.
Yep.
You need to see more. You need to hear more. You need to be calm enough. And maybe you're seeing yourself, but you're not seeing the other person.
You got it.
So what is the issue here?
Excellent.
Because fundamentally, I believe we are all, I believe it's the universe's magic. That's my fundamental core belief. And
getting energized again
here. If you want something badly enough, you'll always get it. The question here is how badly you want it.
I need a coach. Can I work with you?
Oh, John, that is so humbling.
No, you're giving me goosebumps here. I don't know about anybody else, but yeah, this is beautiful. But I know everybody here with us is just like you, Shalini. I know it already. I'm with you 100%. By the way, everybody, when you hit the website, we're doing some incredible stuff on the website. We've rewritten 90% of it, but you can actually access the 11 laws of change. Okay. By the way, it's going to be in your Google Drive too, that you're going to be able to utilize with your clients. That particular thing that I wrote, I think it resonates. I mean, we get a lot of good feedback on it. I think you're really going to enjoy it, Shalini, all of you, because I think it's going to kind of capture a lot of what we're talking about here, plus some additional things. But sharing it with your client at a certain point in the coaching process, it's a game changer. So that tool is going to be available for you. But I love what you're saying, Shalini. Larry, you got a point you want to share? Yes.
More of a question, actually. In a situation where you find yourself coaching someone who, let's say after a few sessions, it just becomes clear they hate their job, they can't get behind their mission of their company, and they just can't find their purpose in that company, but maybe they just can't financially afford to move. What do you do in a situation like that? I mean, do you coach them into I guess where do you go? Do you try to figure out how to help them find purpose within where they're at, or do you try to help them find their way out of it?
Excellent question. Would love to get the team's thoughts on this, because I know we've all encountered this before. What do you do in this situation? Yeah, and let's say the payer source, the company, Larry, right? The company's paying for the coaching, right?
Exactly.
So what do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do here? Hadi, what do you do?
What the client wants. I'm their coach, so from my perspective, I'm not going to decide for them whether they will leave or they will stay. It's something that I can share with them. Say, look, we've been doing that, and I have a feeling. Please verify. What do you think when you're hearing this? What does it make sense? How does it make sense to you? And from there, I would see what kind of support they need. And again, because even in 9 or 12 months, people's lifespan is a lot longer.
Yeah.
That maybe in this 9 or 12 months, they're going through multiple things and they're not sharing in a coaching. So I would always say, back to the point you were saying, John, yesterday, coaching is a partnership. So if I make the decision on their behalf, it's not a partnership. It becomes, well, I think they need to do X, Y, or Z. While again, the premise of coaching, that people are basically, they're capable, so people are capable, they're resourceful, and they really can do it for themselves. And I'm there to support this journey rather than taking a decision on their behalf. That's the way I would do it.
Thank you, Hadi. Mohammed. Okay. Pushpa.
Yes. So, because I'm just thinking out aloud here. As a coach, um, maybe we can help them explore the options which are available, right? Because many a times we need someone to talk to us. Like, say, I read a book on PepsiCo CEO Indra Nui, and she talked about
Fantastic. Yeah.
she talked about how she tried to give healthy options to this company by bringing healthy snacks and so on, right? So maybe as a coach we can sort of brainstorm or encourage them to find the options in their current environment to act positively, which will keep them energized, find their purpose. Because always, sometimes it's possible to change the environment, sometimes it's not possible to change the environment, but possibly glow there itself by doing something. So possibly as a coach we can help them in this pursuit.
Nice.
Interesting. Let's get another thought on this. This is good. Very good.
John, can you hear me now?
Mohammed, you're back. We missed you. We missed you.
My apologies.
No, it's fine. All right. What do you got?
Just a couple of quick points. Earlier, a few minutes ago, we talked about the responsibility of the leader, and I wanted to add that this notion of the leader as the servant is really inspiring, and wanted to share that.
Love that.
Yeah. And as for the second issue here about career coaching or counseling, Larry had asked the question about what do you do with a client who really hates his job? And I kind of face the similar issues, Larry, as a certified career counseling in Saudi Aramco. One of the things that I found out in interviewing and coaching my colleagues and somewhere direct colleagues somewhere from a different department is that oftentimes there is something that they hate about the job, and and they just don't have a way of fixing that problem. And if there's a way, if we can provide a solution for them to either get out of that negative situation or find a way to actually deal with it and find the skin and really the heart to deal with it, they might not have a problem with the job itself. But yes, it does happen in times where the person just really hates being there at that place. But our training has always been try to put the solution in the hands of the clients, so to where they can actually lead them, but generate. As a coach, you can lead them, but they would have to generate those solutions and see it fit for them. And that has always worked, at least in my case. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
that was a good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a good question, and I think great responses here. Anybody else got a perspective they want to share on this? This is what I do, Larry. Exactly what we're hearing here. You do the best you can, right? Everything's confidential. You never share who's saying what, when, where, why, and how. It's all confidential, right? We work extremely hard to Mohammed's point, and it was Shalini, and no, Pushpa. It was Pushpa, right? It was talking about, let's find strategies here to fix whatever is broken. But in parallel, I'm always there to support a new vision, always. And we just do the best we can, and we go as long as we can. And it does happen a lot, especially when you get into core purpose work, Larry, okay? When you start to get into core purpose work and, the light bulb's going to go off for a lot of people. I'm not saying everybody leaves, but anyway, hope that helps.
Thank you.
Amazing. Okay, good. Very good. Yes, we absolutely need great leaders, and this slide sort of builds to, and I think you saw this, right, in the reading, the Wheel of Intelligent Leadership. And obviously the orange and the coral, everybody, that represents the inner core, self-concept, character, value system, beliefs, thinking patterns, emotions, behavioral tendencies. This is where it all starts. And ultimately the gray is why we're hired, right, Mohammed? We're hired to help our leaders strengthen the outer core. But notice the arrows reflect, it all starts on the inside. The pathway to driving greatness in the outer car starts on the inside. The Emily I, you'll see this, by the way, in the materials. We've done quite a few statistical studies correlating the average maturity ratio, which we'll get into a little bit here today. I sent the reports to everybody, and the average maturity ratio correlates 0.65 with outer core leadership success. 0.65. There is a very high relationship between greatness on the inside and greatness on the outside. Okay? Is it perfect? Not perfect. Are there leaders out there who are exhibiting great leadership competencies who might be a little bit weak on the inside? Yeah, it happens. It depends on your definition of greatness, I guess, right? But by and large, we do know that if we can help our clients, Pushpa and Hadi and Shalini, strengthen their inside, we increase the probability of driving greatness in the gray. So that's the wheel of intelligent leadership. We put a little bit more depth on this, and Lawrence from the Netherlands, you were referencing this a few minutes ago. If I could just take a second to read from left to right here, what's really interesting is exactly what you said, Lawrence. Most focus in executive coaching and leadership development is on the outer core. Most programs have leaders trying to focus on the outer core before having them master the foundational mindset, igniters, and habits that enable the outer core new normal leadership skills to emerge.
Yeah. But being busy with
There
the
it
outer
is.
core, it's also safe, because that's what people
Yes.
see most of the time. So that's where they get the results and everything, and where you can shine. Inside you can cry, but outside you can shine. And
That's very well said. Very well said. That resonates big time with what you just said. Anyway, this wheel here is a little bit deeper now, right? We add another layer here, and Pushpa, we're adding the mindset pillars that you're reading about in the book. So strong
Yes.
inner core, right? The algorithm, again, everybody, is thoughts control emotions, emotions behavior, behavior results. That's the algorithm. Most leaders that we work with don't understand that algorithm. They don't understand the algorithm. Whatever results you get in life can be traced back to the quality of your thinking, decisions that you make, and so on and so forth. Tony Robbins talks about this stuff, right? A little bit of NLP here. But I think the power here is strengthening, helping our leaders see their inner core, embrace it, see where their gifts are, see where the weaknesses are, and then move them into the orange, right? And all of these are mindset triggers. The ability to think differently and think big, Nicholas. Think. We got to think differently and think big. We need to make a decision and be vulnerable if, in fact, we're going to be vulnerable. We got to make a decision first, right? We've got to have a mindset of duty, not privilege. Many people walk the earth and, they feel entitled, right? The entitlement mentality. I talk about it in the book. What we need from great leaders is the servant mentality, Muhammad, right? It's a privilege. Hadi, it's a privilege for me to be in this company. It's a privilege to wake up every single day and breathe. It's a privilege to have this opportunity to work with a great team and have everybody touch my heart, my mind, my soul. I have a responsibility to do the same with you. It's a privilege. It's a privilege. It's a mindset trigger. And lo and behold, when people embrace that trigger, guess what? You'll see the behavior follow, Nicholas. You know what I'm saying? So, it all starts to come together, right? Inner core, mindset triggers, and then ultimately actual execution of the competencies. The Enneagram is an ancient way to look at personality. I'm going to do just give me a couple of minutes on this. I want to tee this up. We'll take a little stretch break. How many? I know. I know, Lawrence, from the Netherlands, you got some experience with the Enneagram. It's complicated, right? It's complicated. It's what's held the Enneagram back, actually. It's very deep. The thousands and thousands of years. When I was approached by Master Media in 1994, I had done a speech in New York, and they approached me and they said, "We think you're the person, based upon what you said here, to write a book applying the Enneagram to the world of leadership." I was humbled. I said, "Me?" They said, "Yes, we'd like to talk to you about this opportunity." And they said to me, "Have you ever heard of the Enneagram before?" And you already know my background, industrial psychology. I've had a lot of background in this stuff academically. And no, I never heard of the Enneagram. And I started to do the research, Lawrence and Nicholas and Larry. I did the research. I was blown away with the depth of the Enneagram. But I was not blown away with the statistical studies. You know what I'm saying? It's held it back. Now, we do know this. there's been a lot of statistical studies that validate that these traits that we're going to talk about here exist. The traits exist. There's less research on the lines that connect the traits. Well, I'll explain that in a second. But I felt like, boy, if I could simplify the Enneagram, simplify it, and we might have a shot here, Well, it failed, okay? It failed. One of the reasons the Enneagram has struggled, even though there's a lot of great stuff in it, is that there's 9 constructs is a lot to understand. That's why the two-dimensional schemes, Mohammed, like Myers-Briggs. How many of you have done Myers-Briggs before? Okay, DISC. How about DISC, right? You know why those are the most popular? They're simple. 2 dimensions, 4 quadrants. That's why, right? Human beings like 2 dimensions, 4 quadrants. Now, Myers-Briggs gets into 16, I get it, but still, 2 dimensions, easy to understand. Is this making sense, everybody? Lawrence, you're shaking your head. I mean, the Enneagram, 9 constructs before they sit there and they say, this is too much, So I knew I had to simplify it. I just didn't know how to simplify it, but I learned. And now I'm going to share a little bit about how I was able to simplify it in such a way that you can provide your clients with a lens into their soul, which is incredible, because most people don't have a lens into their soul, and it's not perfect. There's no assessment that's perfect, but it's, and you're going to get this when you start using the MLAI. You're going to have your clients, Hadi, saying, Hadi, this is absolutely incredible. I may not agree with all of it, but I've seen some things here in our debrief that is eye-opening to me, that I just have never seen. And Hadi, these people could be 60 years old, accomplished people, and they're saying to you, you've helped me see some stuff here that I've never seen before. And I've worked with a lot of coaches before. This is the stuff that you're going to hear. But here's what you're going to hear that's really going to get exciting. They're going to say, but Hadi, you're also showing me here a strategy that I can get my arms around that's practical. And then the other thing too, everybody, is I'm going to show you after we take a break, you've got to get the leader focused in on 3 things. And that was a game breaker for us, okay? You can't have your leader focusing in on 9 things. It's too many. But if you can get them, Hadi, to work on 3 things and develop with your help the strategies that will mature those traits, guess what? You increase the probability of a positive flow to the outer core. That's it. That was a breakthrough for JMG and IL years ago when we discovered, listen, we got to simplify this thing, Mohammed. Nine's too much. We got to get it to 3, and we also got to make it practical, So with that said, I think what we'll do is we'll get a break. I'm going to come back. I'm going to move through this, not too quick, but I don't want to spend the rest of our session, obviously, on the MLAI, because those of you who are going to go to level 2, right, you're going to learn from Sue Ryan, who's one of our top coaches. She's also our VP of certification. Sue's incredible. So when you go to level 2, you'll do a deep dive on the MLAI, but I'm going to give you a flavor for the MLAI so that you feel comfortable, right? And when I show you the Google Drive on tomorrow, you'll have enough where you could start to experiment actually doing a debrief on the MLAI. You could do it with the debrief manual that I've written, okay? So anyway, let me just stop right there, just see if you have any questions, any comments before we do some fun stuff after break on this.
I have question. See, in this image, 1 is connecting to 7, 7 to 5,
Yep.
5 to 8. What does this mean?
I'm going to explain it when we come back, Pushpa.
Okay.
Yeah, the Enneagram's got a map, you know. Enneagram's a Greek word. Ennea, 9, gram, map. It's a 9 map. The map gives you a map of growth and also a map of decline as a human being. Okay? That's the lines. I will tell you, in my work as a coach, you don't want to emphasize the lines. When it comes up, you let the leader know that, listen, there's a lot of research that validates the constructs. There's more research that needs to be done on the connections between the traits. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus in on the traits, right? And after break, I'm going to share with you typically what I say. You want to get them off the connections, okay? You're gonna go too deep when you get into the lines. So I'm going to show you what I do. I get them right into the constructs, but it resonates when I explain after break, Pushpa, that boy, intellectually, when I explain the direction here of growth and decline, it makes sense. There just needs to be more research done on the connections between the traits. Okay? Does that make sense?
Okay.
All right, beautiful. Okay, we're good. I think we had another question. Hadi? Yes.
It's a question and a comment.
Yes.
If guys, if you don't mind. The question is, are we going to have the research behind it? Because I mean, like only recently, something like the strength by Gallup, the research around it and all the psychometric and everything has been a bit shaky. Like, and in this world, really,
Yeah.
I mean, in this world, it makes sense when we talk to people learning styles, but anybody who has been long enough in the world of learning, like myself, we know that it is actually it doesn't have like, so I'm just really eager to know what are the psychometric figures behind it, just to understand
Yeah.
where does it stand, because
got
this
it.
would give me personally,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to show it.
a
With you
feel
100%.
of how it works. The second,
Yep.
the second thing is, it was interesting on my lowest score was on the helper, and it started with empathy, which it's something that I usually get praised for by every person I've worked with. Like I've worked in 8-9 companies.
Of course.
Some of them are a 50,000, definitely not the 50,000 gave me that, because I don't know them all, but I mean, with a lot of leaders. So that's why I'm asking,
Yeah, I'll
just to see
explain it.
how does it stand with all of that. And you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. No single assessment is bulletproof. And personally, I might not be very self-aware in certain areas.
Yeah,
So,
no, great stuff. So listen, when we get back, I'm going to lay out the stats. In your debrief manual in the Google Drive, Hadi, you're going to see all the stats, the research that we've done, that I think is really going to give you a lot of comfort, because obviously when you do a debrief, you got to share, hey, you're at this percentile ranking, right? In the database. We got 12,000 leaders in the database. Our statistics are based upon ongoing research, looking at percentile rankings and so on and so forth. So all of this is going to make sense. I'm going to do a sort of a high-level debrief. I was looking at the profiles. I picked one out. Pushpa, I hope you don't mind. Pushpa, I'd like to work with you after we get
Yes.
back. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, and you'll be able to share your score. You did very well on the Emily I. If you don't mind, you could share your numbers, and then I will
Yes.
explain. I think that will help all of us.
Yeah.
And then we'll get out of the Emily I, and there's a few more things that I want to get done today. But we're right on schedule. We're doing good, everybody. All right, so let's grab 15 minutes, and
Yes.
we'll see you soon. All right.
See you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna mute and I'll turn off my video. Okay. We're back.
Yes. So shall I share my report in the chat, or how do we go, John?
You don't need to share it. I found it. I'll go through it. No worries, Pushpa. I like your scores. All right.
John, I have a question. Maybe
Yeah,
before we
Dominic.
start.
Yeah, sure.
So it's about these tools, not only this one, but these tools in general. If, for example, I'm doing an assessment twice and I'm getting different results, that could say something about me, like maybe some variability in my self perception, maybe, because this worries me a little, to be honest. Did you come across this, that maybe someone did it twice and maybe they got different results?
Happens.
Um,
Yeah, it does happen. It's an excellent question. One thing that I'll tell you is psychometrically, big word there, right? Psychometrically, these instruments have certain hurdles, Dominic, okay? Validity, reliability, test, retest reliability tends to be very, very high, okay? With most objective assessments that are on the market, okay? Because we need to see consistency. Now, is it perfect consistency? Of course not, because people could be going through a situation that maybe didn't happen the first administration, right? Second administration, something's happening, right? And they take the assessment and the scores are different. We've done enough testing on the Emily. The reliability coefficient, the test retest is very high. It's in the 0.9 range. It can go to 1. It's very, very high. We don't practically want to redo the Emily, okay? Because our goal is to get a baseline, right? And what we do is we want to not show improvement necessarily on Emily scores. We want to show improvement in the outer core competencies, right? So we'll do, you see what I'm saying? So that's going to be the focus. But you bring up a very good point. I'll tell you, like the CPI 260, Hogan, Emily and some of the other ones out there, you should feel confident that if you're going to use those instruments, that the reliability is really, really high. That said, there are people's mindset might be different, when they take the first one versus the second one. Does that help?
Thank you. Yes.
Jason.
Thank you.
Great stuff. Okay. All right. Let's. I'm going to very, very briefly describe these traits. Okay. In a second. I want to show you another slide though that I think is very interesting. So we have the wheel of intelligent leadership. Now watch what happens. We take the Enneagram and look what we do. What are we doing here? Why did we do this? Anybody? Why did we superimpose the Enneagram on the inner core? Why do you think? Anybody? It's kind of interesting, isn't it? We didn't superimpose it on the outer core, just the inner core. Lawrence?
Because the. The Enneagram, as far as I see it, it's a reflection of the personality of the individual. And the Enneagram is a reflection of the personality of the individual. And the Enneagram is a reflection of the personality of the individual. And the Enneagram is a reflection of the personality of the individual. And the Enneagram is a reflection of the personality of the individual. And the Enneagram is a reflection of the personality of the individual. And the Enneagram is a reflection of the personality of the individual. And the Enneagram is a reflection of the personality of the individual. And the Enneagram is a reflection of the personality of the individual. And the Enneagram is a reflection of the personality of the individual. And the Enneagram is a reflection of the personality of the individual. And the Enneagram is a reflection of the personality of the individual. And the Enneagram is a reflection of the personality of the individual. And the Enneagram is a reflection of the personality of the individual. And the Enneagram is a reflection of the personality of the individual. And the Enneagram is a reflection of the behavior. It's a mirror of a behavior, and that behavior is, there are things you're strong with and things you have to improve yourself. And I think the good thing about Enneagram is it's not, if you're good in that, you're automatically bad in that one, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
That's a little bit with for example, with a disc. I really like the disc when you work with teams, for example, you know?
I agree.
You create teams with different colors and different mentalities, and you need a strong man and a thinker and everything.
Yeah.
But here it's much more that you learn about your own behavior and the dominant way of thinking, and so behaving yourself. And that's I know a little bit about it. I
Yeah.
work with it.
No, that's good. No, really, really good. Larry. Oh, Larry, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I try not to do that
Okay.
sort of thing.
That's okay.
But just looking at the diagram itself of the Enneagram, it looks like these match up with the different centers of, instinctive feeling and thinking with regards to thoughts, behavioral tendencies, and emotions. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So we look at the Enneagram as really it's an ambitious attempt, Larry, to measure and calibrate the health. You heard these words yesterday: health, vibrancy, maturity of the composite of the inner core and the soul. That's what the MLEI does. The MLEI, utilizing the Enneagram as the concept, right, measures the inner core, measures, like Lawrence was talking about, are the thinking patterns strong, mature, and vibrant? Is the self-concept out of balance? Is the character of the person impeccable, or maybe the character's weak in certain areas, right? Maybe the courage is not there, so on and so forth. Maybe the value system is off. You know what I'm saying? So if the client's not strong, mature, and vibrant in the inner core, their thinking patterns being positive, self-concept imbalanced, dealing with a client who's got a massive ego, for example, right? And so on and so forth. All of that stuff eventually flows to the outer core, where people look at that person, Larry, and they say, that person's not a great leader, you see? So let me do this. Lawrence brought up something very interesting. You said there's really a good side, right? But there's also a potential bad side to these traits. I don't know if you used those exact words, but that's sort of what you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So cholesterol in our body. When you go to the doctor, Nicholas, and the doctor says to you, Nicholas, your bad cholesterol score is elevated. They're going to ask you some questions. They're going to ask you about, has your eating patterns changed? And you say no. And then they're going to ask you, what about your workout regimen? Has that changed? And you say, no, hasn't changed. And then the doctor says, let me ask you about this one. What about stress? Has stress increased in your life? And Nicholas goes, yeah, stress is up. And one of the interesting things from medical science is that stress absolutely will elevate your bad cholesterol. I want everybody here to think about these traits. Everybody on this call, every human being who walks the planet Earth has these traits. These are engines in your soul. They pump. They're pumping every single day. And some of these engines pump differently in some people than others. Okay, so Nicholas, there's certain traits and engines within you that are pumping more, right? Larry, if we look at your profile, right, some of these traits, you got higher scores and so, right, on the first set of numbers and so on and so forth. So first thing I want everybody to realize is engines, 9 engines pumping. We talked about energy yesterday, right? Goes somewhere. Energy goes somewhere. And what's interesting is, Nicholas, and all of you, is that when there's pumping, there's good stuff that pumps on these traits, good cholesterol, and there's also bad cholesterol. Okay? So I'm going to explain this in terms of when I look at your scores here in a second, working with Pushpa, around the second set of scores where you look at what's called your maturity ratios, okay? Maturity ratios reflects the degree of good cholesterol on that trait versus bad cholesterol. You know what's really interesting, everybody, is you can have bad cholesterol on a trait and nobody knows about it. You probably do not even know that you've got the bad cholesterol. And guess what? If the stress level is within, let's say, a degree of balance for you, people around you will not experience the bad cholesterol. But lo and behold, what ends up happening is when it's really bad, right, and things are really changing and you're really stressed out, the bad cholesterol will flow to the outer core. And what ends up happening is when you do a 360, Mohammed, right, you find out that the stakeholders are experiencing your bad cholesterol, right? And so therefore, think about the power as a coach. When you work with the MLEI, remember we talked about helping our clients get out in front, right? Just like the business. When you actually have data that says, Mohammed, we're seeing some bad cholesterol here, okay? We've got 360 data. Nobody's seeing it yet, but here's what we need to do. We know that you got some bad cholesterol here. The assessment says it. We've talked about it. We need to put into place a strategy to make sure that we have the guardrails in place to make sure the bad stuff doesn't flow to the outer core. We can't have that happen. You see what I'm saying? So the MLEI is a leading indicator measure. It enables your clients to get some leading indicator information pushed, but they can do something with. Mohammed, does that make sense? Okay. So here's the helper trait. You don't need to take any notes on this at all. Just want you to listen for a second. All of this is in the slides. You're going to get all the slides. Obviously, it's all on the Google Drive. Let's start with we'll do the one last. Let's start with the helper trait. Helper trait is an incredible trait. I think Shalini, you brought up the word altruism earlier. There's the core of the helper trait, the value of altruism. When the helper trait is active and mature, what you see is altruism, the value of altruism, and you see the expression of altruism. People experience that. They look at that person, Shalini, and they say, the great person, right? Compassionate. They care for others. They have a heart, okay? Heart, right? So the helper trait is definitely the core of what we call the heart trait, okay? Here's the bad cholesterol side. Question to the great coaches that we have here. For not only the helper trait, but all these traits, can you overdo a trait to the point where it becomes a negative? What do you think? Mohammed, I see you shaking your head. Talk to me.
Well, I mean, can you hear me first of all?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. Yeah. I think overdoing it, becomes less of a genuine act of you, of your personality, really.
Yep.
So, and that is something that people can read right away.
Yeah. So, just think about being overly compassionate, overly compliant, overly complacent. You see what I'm talking about here, right? Oh, you overdo the altruism to where somebody says they're not strong, they're kind of weak, They're too passive, and so on and so forth.
So
So
you could be
here's,
manipulate. Sorry, John, but you could be manipulative. Could that also be one of the weak traits?
yeah, say
Because
it
you're
again,
doing it
Shalini.
for
I missed it. Say it again.
so what I'm saying, John, is could it be that you're doing it for a reason? So you're being manipulative. So that could be the weak side.
There you go. There you go. And I miss what you said. I got to tell you, very, very astute on your part, Shalini. It's very interesting. Okay. Manipulative. So, for example, here's an example. Hey, Shalini, I will do something for you. However, what are you going to do for me? Right? That's manipulative. Leaders who do that are done in the world today. Right? I think we would all agree with that, right? You can't do that. That's games. You're playing games. That's not authentic. So, what we see in the helper trait, what we want to see in our clients is an active helper trait. And I'm going to put the stats on this here in a second, Hadi, because the stats are really powerful here. You want to see an active helper trait, which you have, by the way, Hadi. I looked at your profile. You scored right at the mean. You scored a 33, okay? So you do have a heart. You do. You're compassionate, right? It's there. When we look at the maturity ratio, which I'll explain in a second, you still scored in an area that's called low average. Solid. It's fine, okay? But so anyway, there's more to discuss here, but that's the helper trait. Everybody see that? Good cholesterol, beautiful, right? And then the bad cholesterol side could be the stuff that we talked about. The entertainer trait, everybody, is an achievement trait. It is about drive, ambition. It is about achievement. It is about relationships. When you see the score, and again, I'll put some depth on this here in a second. When you see the score active, and you got something that's in the mature range on that trait, a lot of good cholesterol. You're seeing somebody who is pursuing not in a selfish way, okay? Remember what I talked about yesterday, right? The pursuit of greatness, but it's about us, right? That's the entertainer trait on the good side. On the bad side, potentially when you see low maturity on this trait, you might be dealing with a client that's got an overactive ego, okay? And you'll see that a lot. I know that you see that in your work currently. I do a lot of work with CEOs globally, and I'm dealing with a really overactive ego. The key is I want them to have deep conviction and belief, not only in themselves, but their teams and their organizations. But I want a balanced ego. And the way to get a balanced ego is for them to embrace vulnerability. That will pull them back into a zone of, you see what I'm saying? It's the interplay between the two. The artist trait is about creativity. It's about innovation. It's about thinking outside the box. It's about a mentality of there's always a better way. The artist trait on the downside, by the way, Steve Jobs, when he took the MLEI, his highest score was the artist trait. He scored a 59. And again, I'm going to lay out the stats in a second. Highest you can score in any one of these traits, Hadi, is a 60. Okay, that's the highest you can score. The lowest is a 12. Okay, that's your theoretical range, 12 to 60. Steve Jobs scored a 59. Everybody on a 60 scale on the artist trait. We've got 12,000 leaders in the database, Lawrence. The second highest score in the database was a CEO I worked with in Switzerland 5 years ago. He scored 55. That tells you that Steve Jobs was, and of course we all knew it, he was a creative genius. He was creative. But listen, there's a downside to this trait. And the downside is that people who elevate this trait have the tendency under stress to become very individualistic and to run. And Steve Jobs did evidence the fight or flight. You know, the fight or flight, He was absolutely unbelievably aggressive and direct at times. That was depicted in the movies. There's no question about that. But he also had a tendency at times to run. He would leave meetings and say, Mohammed, I'm out of here. I'm not dealing with this. Gone. Okay. So isolation is one potential downside of the artist trait. Thinker trait, everybody, is about analytical. It's about details, about options, alternatives, mitigate risk. The downside potentially is maybe getting stuck, indecisiveness. Disciple trait's a beautiful trait. Hadi, I looked at your profile real quick. Your disciple trait was elevated. Disciple trait's about others. That was your highest score, I believe. And it was one of your highest scores, I believe. But listen, that's, when people experience you, yes, they're seeing your heart, but they're also seeing this disciple trait, which tells people that you come across authentically as somebody that it's not about you, it's about others. You wake up every single day and you commit to touching hearts, minds, and souls. That is the disciple trait. It is about not you, it's about others. You see what I'm saying? And by the way, I looked at your maturity and it was solid on that. So very, very interesting, right? Now, the disciple trait, there's a downside. You can be so other-oriented. You tell me what happens next. If you're so other-oriented, you might have a tendency to forget about who?
Yourself.
You got it. Exactly. Exactly. So somebody who, for example, is not in the gym, who maybe is not sleeping enough. You know what I'm saying? There's a tendency for that to happen with the disciple trait. Activist trait is your entrepreneurial trait. It's about risk taking. The downside is impulsiveness. Driver trait is about ambition. It's a lot like the entertainer trait. Difference is driver trait's about results driven, ambition, pace is fast. The downside of the driver trait is over aggressiveness, being too direct. The arbitrator trait is about team, we, us, Larry, we, us, but us, right? But coalesce, we're going to pull people together, we're going to work together, collaboration. And the downside sometimes would be abdication of responsibility and authority. Let the team do it. I'm out. Okay. That's very high level. Okay. It's certainly deeper than that. Let me just kind of go through this real quick. So what is the MLEI? It's less a measure of a leader's personality, more of a measure of a leader's potential to respond to stress and disruption, either in a mature or immature way. Therefore, it's really not a measure of who you are. But back to what I said, Mohammed, right? It's more of a leading indicator measure that predicts a leader's can do and will do. It highlights a leader's gifts they need to leverage and the red flags they need to accept and address. And if we can help our clients get out in front, put strategies in place before people experience the bad side of those traits, they're going to be ecstatic to work with you. And that, that's the power of the MLEI. So listen, everybody, when you work with us, your clients will get a report like this. And again, more on this later, but you'll connect with the JMG team, say, hey, listen, I want to administer an MLEI. We send you a link, you send it to your client, right? Reports generated. We keep the report very, very not granular, very high level. We send it back to you, and then obviously you send it to your client, and you're going to sit down with them, right? And go through the report. You got your reports. You're going to notice that there are two scales. So Pushpa, we'll use yours as an example. There's one set of numbers, the whole numbers. right? And then you look below that and you'll see decimals, right? And those are called the maturity ratios, okay? So far, let me just make sure everybody's tracking with me here. Everybody tracking? So far, so good? Amazing. Okay. You will see on tomorrow that I've written an ebook called the Emily I Interpretive ebook. You're going to like this because what ends up happening, Nicholas, is when you have your client debrief, you're not going to send this to them before the debrief, okay? You're going to do it after the debrief. And again, I'll explain more on this later, but it is the combination of their results and the Emily I Interpretive ebook with the instructions that you're going to give them that's game changing. Because once they dive into what it is they need to focus on, they can read the whole book. This is 110 pages. They may not read the whole thing, but Nicholas, if you focusing in on 3 things, and I'm going to get to those 3 things, and they read those trait chapters, let me tell you what, they're going to start to see what they need to do differently and better to mature these traits, okay? Okay. What I'd like you to do is just pull out a piece of paper, okay? Just pull out a piece of paper and a pen. And what I'd like you to do on that piece of paper, everybody knows what a bell-shaped curve is, correct? The statistical bell-shaped curve. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to draw 6 of them. Just stack them up. Just draw 6 bell-shaped curves, one on top of each other. Give you a second to do that. Nicholas, the engineer, is getting very excited right now, I can tell. Right, Nicholas? The bell-shaped curves and the multivariate statistics and, right, all that stuff. Look at him. He's excited. Right? Now, here's the science of coaching, right? So we got 6 of these things stacked up. The first one, everybody, at the top, what I'd like you to do, actually for all of these, to the left, all the way to the left, is just write down the number 12. What does that mean? That's the lowest that you can score on the Emily I, any one of these traits. So 12, all the way to the left. Okay? All the way to the right, 60. There's your range, Dominic, right? That's your theoretical range, 12 to 60. The first bell-shaped curve at the top, what I'd like you to do is draw a line down the middle, and that reflects the midpoint, the statistical mean, if you will. And I'd like you to write down the number 33. Okay? Now, what does that reflect? That first bell-shaped curve reflects the data in our database, 12,000 leaders globally, of the helper trait. That's the helper trait. The statistical mean globally in our database of successful leaders, by the way, successful leaders. We keep our databases separate. We keep our coaches in a separate database. So the 10 of you, right? We kept out of our leadership database, but we're still comparatively looking at, hey, how do you fall against successful leaders in the world? Steve Jobs' data is in the database. Yasser Al-Rumayyan, who's one of my clients from Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, his data is in the database. Bill Logue, FedEx, right down the list. Top CEOs are in the database. So your clients need to know that when they look at their scores, they're being scored against the best, Dominic, okay? The best, okay? So if they look at their score and they say, boy, I'm falling short. No, you're not. We're comparing you against the best. So that's important, okay? The helper trait mean is 33. Okay. By the way, Hadi, we got standard deviation. You're going to see this right in the debrief guide. We have standard deviation. So essentially, right, one standard deviation, 68% of the population will fall between a 38 and a 28 on the helper trait. Okay, basically. All right. Okay. I'll explain this. Everybody, you're tracking with me, right? Everybody good with me so far? Okay. Second bell-shaped curve. The second bell-shaped curve, what I'd like you to do is put at the midpoint the number 36. 36. Second bell-shaped curve reflects the data related to the artist trait. Artist. This is the creativity trait. Third bell-shaped curve. At the midpoint, please put down the number 38. This bell-shaped curve reflects the data related to the activist trait, the entrepreneurial trait. Fourth bell-shaped curve. At the midpoint, put the number 40.
John?
Yes. Yes.
And the range is every time 12 and 60.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah,
12 to 60.
Okay, 12 to 60. All
So
right.
the mean is floating a little bit, Lawrence, you can tell, right? And what's really interesting is, as I mentioned earlier, the lagging trait in the world is the helper trait. Heart is lagging. Now, what's really interesting is, and I know all of you as coaches know this, it's not that people don't have hearts. Steve Jobs didn't know how to show his heart. He had a heart. He did. He didn't know how to show it. Have you seen that before? People have hearts. They need to be polished. I get it. He did have a heart. He didn't know how to show it. We got to show them, Nicholas. We got to show them the pathway to express their heart with courage and authenticity. And that's when people look at you and they say, I want to follow that human being. They're smart, they have a heart, and they have a soul. I'm going to follow that human being. That's what we need in parents, too, in the world. It's interesting, right? So anyway, everybody, the 40 reflects two databases, the perfectionist trait and the disciple trait. Okay? Pushpa, you're with me, right, on this? Okay? So far, so good?
Yes, yes.
Amazing. Okay. We got two more to go, everybody. Hang with me. We're almost done here. 41. Next bell-shaped curve. There are three traits that reflect the data here. Entertainer, thinker, and driver. 41 is the mean. And the final bell-shaped curve reflects the arbitrator. And the mean on that one's a 42. All right. So Hadi, you're starting to see this a little bit here now, right? And now you can see very quickly, looking at your profile, the first set of numbers, sort of where you fall, right? With respect to the mean. Now, we don't get into percentile rankings on the raw scores, the whole numbers, okay? We have a lot of data, Hadi, that you're going to see related to percentile rankings on the maturity ratios, which honestly is the most important. Because there's a high correlation between leadership maturity as reflected in the individual maturity ratios, Mohammed, and the aggregate maturity ratio in outer core leadership success. Okay? Okay. Very good.
John, sorry, I missed. For the bell curve where average is 40, which trait matches?
Pushpa, there are two, perfectionist disciple.
Okay.
And John,
Thank you.
I got a question. Sorry. The second from the bottom was three, entertainer, driver, and what was the third one?
Thinker. Thinker.
Thank you.
Mohammed. You got it. Okay. Okay. Excellent. So I'm going to put Pushpa. I'm going to come back to you here in a second. I'm going to kind of hopefully pull all this together. Notice the second area here, everybody. So that's the trait scale. Now we look in the middle here. So see, everybody see the maturity scale? You see that? Maturity scale, the theater. So we got to do one more bell-shaped curve. Okay, just do one more. And look what we're saying here, everybody. The range on this one, believe it or not, is minus 0.8. That's the lowest that you can score on any one of these scales in the aggregate. So minus 0.8 all the way to the left, plus 0.8 all the way to the right. 0 is the midpoint. Everybody got that? Minus 0.8 to plus 0.8. Okay. So we got all these leaders in the database, and we look at this stuff every couple of weeks. Notice the statistical range. Everybody see this? Minus 0.11 to plus 0.548. What does that mean? The highest score we have ever seen on the average maturity ratio, Shalini, I don't remember the leader, but that's the highest score, is 0.548. So if you look at the whole distribution, right? If you look to the right of the midpoint, right, you can see the 0.548 is an incredible score. It's an incredible score. And then the lowest is minus 0.11. What's that tell you? The vast majority, in fact, 97.8% of global leaders in our database have maturity ratios that are above what? 0. As it should be. Every now and then, right? Nicholas will have somebody who scores, and maybe it was a bad day, whatever. Okay. Okay. Pushpa. Can I work with you for like 5 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Everybody, just kind of watch and let's see what happens here. Okay. So Pushpa, if you don't mind, I'm going to share your scores with the team here, and I'm going to do some interpretation. Okay. Now,
Yes.
I really don't know you. I mean, I've gotten to know you a little bit. Right?
Yes.
Obviously, when you do a debrief related to the MLAI, your hope is that you have other data points, and you also have the 360, right?
Yes.
Which is, right? Am I getting some validation that the good stuff and the bad stuff's flowing, right?
Yes.
So I'm just going to do just a high level guess
Yeah.
on how I see your soul based upon these numbers, okay? And you tell me if I'm pretty right, whatever, all right?
Yes.
Your helper score was a 37. Did you notice that?
Yes.
The mean in the database is a 33. So immediately I know that engine is active in you, right? By the way, everybody, what creates variability in these traits igniting? Why is Pushpa's profile different than Larry's profile? What ignites engines in our soul? I got one I want to share with you. What about how you were born, DNA? Would DNA be a predictor of what ignites? Absolutely. How you were brought up would be another one. Here's another one that is sometimes surprising to people. But you know what I've learned? Subconsciously, you know what we do? When we get into a job, we want to be successful, right? Right, Nicholas? We want to be successful. And what we do is subconsciously, we tend to ignite those traits that we think will flow positively to the outer core in a positive way. We do that. So coaches, for example, tend to have elevated helper traits, tend to have elevated disciple traits that are mature, right? Other-oriented, heart, right? You see what I'm saying here? Somebody mentioned servant leadership before. It was you, Muhammad, right? That's servant leadership, helper trait, disciple, arbitrator trait. You see? We do it subconsciously. But Pushpa, 37, I know that trait is active. Now my question is there good cholesterol, bad cholesterol floating on this trait? Right? So I look at your maturity ratio and I say 0.433. That is a mature trait. So you don't have a lot of bad cholesterol in this trait. You got a lot of good stuff going on here. So first thing I would say is, Pushpa, you have a big heart. Care for people, show concern for people, and because your maturity is so high, my prediction, my guess would be that you're very authentic. And people probably have said that to you before. What you get from Pushpa, you know, what you see is what you get. She's real. She's real. Real deal. True?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, my husband says so. Others, they don't so much, but my husband says so, yes.
Don't even talk to your husband anymore, please. But obviously, you know, this this jumps out to me. Your entertainer score is 35. Everybody remember the mean on the entertainer trait?
41.
41. So that trait is pumping. You're certainly within one standard deviation. This is your ego trait. And what's really interesting is I know you have an ego and there's conviction about yourself and you are achievement oriented, true, and ambitious. This is not why you exist. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's there, it's pumping. Your 0.3 maturity ratio is high average. A lot of good stuff here. A lot of good stuff, right? So one thing that I would say is your ego is balanced here, is my interpretation on this. That is that true?
I guess so, yes.
Your artist trait is a 31. You see that, right?
Hmm.
The mean on the database is a 36. This particular trait is a little bit lower, still within one standard deviation, but lo and behold, I look at your maturity ratio, and again, 0.367, high average maturity, a lot of great cholesterol on this trait. There's not a lot to say here. As a coach, maybe this is something that I would say to you as, now listen very closely, I would say, Pushpa, you've got a gift here, okay? Your maturity ratio would not be this high. Maybe we can work on some things here that can amp this trait up because, you know, it's so good. And the world needs to experience your artistry, your creativity, your innovation. It's pumping. But I think maybe we could look at this as something that we could pump up more. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You see? Give me your comments on that related
Yes.
to innovation, creativity, thinking outside the box and all of that stuff.
Yes. You know, initially I used to think I'm not creative because I'm not artist. but then I got some good teacher, and they really helped me understand what is creativity.
Yeah.
And in my organization, we have innovation lab. I participated there, and I went till pitch 2. And so in my organization as well, I'm sort of respected in the innovation lab.
Good for
And
you.
it's very interesting to work in these unknown areas, go and talk to strangers
Good.
and sort of work on it. And so now I see creativity and innovation with different lens. I feel anything and everything we do, there is an creativity there. And so I see myself and others from that lens.
Very well said. And here's my perspective on that. You found an avenue here to continue to amp this up and polish it, embrace it, because now you're seeing that my goodness, right? There's opportunity here. I'm not saying this is a weakness. In fact, I'm saying this is a gift of yours. And so what it is that you're doing, I applaud. I think it's excellent. Your thinker traits are 39, a little bit lower than the mean. I'm looking at your maturity ratio at 0.3. So I would say that, yes, you're analytical and you're detailed, but I don't think, Pushpa, unless you fight me on this, I don't think you're overly analytical. You do your due diligence, you do your homework. You're not going to be impulsive, but I wouldn't say that you're like Nicholas. Like Nicholas is an engineer. You're going to be really, really detailed on stuff. I think you're detailed, but you know what I'm saying?
Not too much.
Make
Indeed.
sense?
Yes, truly. Because I feel that, it's my sort of learning and feeling as well. Because sometimes, um, not every time 1 + 1 is 2. There is a lot beyond it, and I, I sort of like being there. Of course, you know, mathematics is very, very important.
Yeah. This is very interesting. Disciple trait 35, below the mean. This is your other oriented trait. But lo and behold, everybody, 0.5 on maturity. Okay. This is a beautiful trait. This is a beautiful trait. You're proud. That's the word that I'm thinking of. You're very, very proud to be part of something bigger than yourself. That's probably a good definition of who you are. Is that true?
Yes, I feel very proud of where I work, what I do, and also, my parents, my father, my family. I'm proud of my country, and and in fact, everything I do, I feel until and unless I am convinced that it is really good thing, I won't do. Like, joining this training, I'm so proud of the work you have done, and so I'm here. So I like doing things which I'm really convinced, and think that it is really, it makes sense or not make sense. I would enjoy. It is something which I will look up to.
We talk about the mindset of duty. You embody that. It's very moving. You're giving me chills. This is a beautiful, beautiful trait. And this is a trait that, as you continue to amp it up, is only going to mean great things for your coaching and your leadership, Pushpa. And lo and behold, you got to role model this to your client. We need more of this. We need more of this from leaders. The other orientation, right? It's about others. Your activist trait is a 28. This is your entrepreneurial risk taker. You're not a risk taker. You're not. Correct?
Yes. Yes. I mean, so I'm here, as I said, I'm exploring now myself. That I try new things. I go to the innovation lab and I do something, though I don't know what is the success. So I'm trying that, but
Good.
definitely I'm not a big risk taker. So I want to do my business coaching, but I won't leave my job.
Again. Listen, this is very interesting. I hope everybody's seeing this. I mean, this is what happens, and listen, MLAI is not perfect. It's not perfect, but you can see where we go with these things, and we're just kind of doing surface stuff here. One thing that I would say is that you have a lot of gifts here, Pushpa. This is a gift of yours. And what I'm saying is that your 0.467 maturity ratio on the activist trait tells me that you're really never impulsive. You do your homework. You are analytical to the point where you make the right decision. You tend to be pretty accurate around those decisions that you make. The driver trait is a 38. That's also a little bit below the mean, but I'm looking at maturity of 0.333. Your arbitrator trait is a 39, a little bit below the mean. Now, let me just throw something out here, okay? You'll notice that I've got a theme here. Did you notice that your traits are slightly below the mean consistently? Did you notice that, everybody?
Yes.
Okay. But your maturity ratios are pumping. Great stuff, okay? You've got an opportunity here to bring these gifts more. If I was coaching you, we would have to find a way through the strategies to bring it out more. So what's interesting about the MLAI, and you're all going to get this when you start using it, when you look at the scores and you see consistently the traits not pumping, consistent with the average, you're dealing with sometimes, and this is again a hypothesis, I'm going to throw this out. I think you've got a really strong presence, Pushpa. Presence, okay? You're humble. And that's what makes you, I think, you're going to be a great coach. You're a great coach now, but I think your ability to be really incredible is going to be maybe amping up the presence a little bit more, making these traits a little bit more active, and making sure the maturity stays where it is and even gets better. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Very interesting. Okay. So again, I'm not saying that you don't have a great presence. I think you've got a strong presence. But there's no question, I believe, that there's an opportunity here to bring it out.
I have a question. I don't fully understand how to read it. When we say, score, take for instance, helper. Helper score is 33, but maturity is 4.433. How do I, take it? I'm not quite getting it.
First set of scores, energy.
Okay.
Okay, cholesterol. Now the question is, what's the percentage of good cholesterol and energy? And what's the percentage of bad cholesterol potentially? You see what I'm saying? That's the difference. So you can have high score, like Steve Jobs, for example, everybody. This is incredible, by the way. Think about this one. 59 on the artist trait, but I built the test. The algorithm is such that when you score 59, you've got low maturity on that trait. And sure enough, he was a creative genius, but he had a lot of bad stuff going on in that trait. Same thing with the driver trait. He scored a 55. You see what I'm saying? So your scores, so you see what I'm saying? There's two different dimensions here that are really not related at all. Energy, and then the question is, as that thing pumps, what are we seeing as it pumps? Good stuff or potential bad stuff? With you, we're seeing energy that I think we can amp up even more. Why? Because you got beautiful stuff on these traits. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes. So maturity is there. So if I work on my scores, it will really become better.
You got it. And when you see the ebook, right? Because all of you are going to spend some time with this stuff post the program, obviously, right? You're going to see strategies on the traits that we're going to pick, you and I, that will enable you to say, boy, this makes a lot of sense. I just got to do this more. Okay? Strategies are right there in the chapters.
One more question,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah. No, this is great. Great. I love it.
So, see, when I was reading this, it says that pick two two traits from your scores which are high and which are low. But when we have traits or measurements, multiple traits or multiple maturity ratios which are exactly same. Like if I look at my scores, thinker and arbitrator are 39. So which one shall I
Thank you
pick?
so much. Thank you so much. So we have a tie. So the first question, so remember I said 3, not 9, Mohammed? We don't want to work with 9. We're already, it's too complicated, right? So Pushpa's asking a great question. John, what do we work on here? Here's 3. Here are the 3. Okay? First one is you look at the highest score, Pushpa, which is what you did, right? And you're saying, okay, coach, I got a tie here, 39 on thinker, 39 on arbitrator. There's a tiebreaker rule in the MLEI. You go with the more mature trait. So your predominant trait, by the way, and by the way, Lawrence, you already know this, right? With the Enneagram. What's also held back the Enneagram is, hey, I'm a thinker. I'm an arbitrator, right? No, that's not what we got to do here. You're all of these things, right? So Pushpa, your predominant trait is your arbitrator trait. You scored a 0.5.
Yes.
Here's what we need to do. The highest score that you can score is a plus 0.8, correct?
Yes,
right?
yes.
Plus 0.8.
Yes.
So here's what we need to
0.8.
do. There's a big difference between 0.5 and 0.8. You want to
0.8,
create,
yes.
you want to create a masterpiece in your life? You say, yeah. So
Yes.
here's what we need to do. We need to amp up that arbitrator trait, bring it out more, and continue to mature and polish that trait. Because what's going to happen is it's going to flow directly to your leadership in the outer core and has a very high correlation with something called team leadership, okay, which is a competency in the outer core. Very high relationship, you see? So you say to me, boy, John, I like that, okay? The second thing that we're going to work on is we're going to go to the second set of scores. Follow me, everybody. We're going to go to the second set of scores, and we're going to look at your least mature ratio.
So in this as well, their entertainer is and thinker both are 0.3 and driver is 0.33.
Exactly. So what we do is we look at your lowest maturity. We have a tie again, right? Entertainer and thinker. Which one's your highest score from the first set of scores? Thinker.
Thinker, yes.
There you go. That's your least mature trait, thinker. We're going to work on that.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to work on your arbitrator trait. We're going to blow that out. We're going to blow it out. Then we're going to look at your least mature trait, which is your thinker trait. And even though you scored high average, there's probably some areas that we can polish there. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You see, this is resonating with you, right? So we're going to work on that. That's the second thing. And then third thing is we go back to the first set of scores and we look at the lowest score. And lo and behold, and it is the activist trait. 28.
Yes. 28,
and here's what we need to do. We got to move you. You've already started to take some steps in this, right? We got to move you and amp this up because you becoming more of a risk taker, a reasonable risk taker, is going to yield for you. And listen, 0.467 is a beautiful maturity ratio. But there's a big difference between 0.467 and 0.8.
Yes.
Now you sit to me, you say, John, that's great. And I got to tell you, everybody, 25 years experience on this. Let me tell you what, this has probably been the biggest breakthrough ever on the MLEI and using the Enneagram because I have Enneagram people calling me all the time. How have you done this? and you guys got all the answers here. What we did was we simplified it. We got you to focus in as an executive, not on 9 things. Executives can't deal with 9. They got to deal with 3, right? Right, Mohammed? 3. I can get my arms around 3. And guess what? The practical strategies, Pushpa, that you're going to work on with me will absolutely mature these and amp them up so that, guess what? There's going to be positive flow to the outer core. And what we're going to do is we're going to measure that, right? If we got 360, right, we're going to roll this strategy, this ILDP, around some of these things, and we're going to do leader watch after you share the ILDP with your team, 3 months after that, and we're going to make sure, right, that you've moved the needle successfully with respect to the outer core. Now you're sitting there saying, John, this is great because you've got me focused here, and you got me focused in on practical things that I can get my arms around. You know what I'm saying? Not theory.
Thank you.
You bet. Round of applause. Pushpa. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Listen, I didn't want to spend that much time, but I could tell from the group, I hope I'm right, that this seemed to be resonating. Did it make sense? A little bit? Okay, cool. That's great.
Absolutely.
Hey, Lawrence. Sorry, I saw your hand up there for like 20 minutes.
No problem. No problem. There's one thing, because Dominic said something, I think 20 minutes ago. It was a very good point that if you do this 2 times or 3 times the test, do you get the same results? And to be honest, what's interesting for me, and I know there's in the world there's a lot of critics for the Enneagram and the scientific the background and everything, but I think I think it really works for quite a lot of people. It's doing for me. Absolutely. And I think you show with your company and your approach that it works as well. And the funny thing is, I think the last time I did it, a test, Enneagram test, I was an arbitrator. And right now I did it, I think it's 20 years later, and I haven't done it in 20 years. It's still getting an arbitrator, and it's not saying everything, but it's funny, and I have a 52 on the arbitrator.
Yeah, 50. I saw that actually. I saw.
Yeah, and in those days, I remember I had a very high score on the arbitrator as well, and it's still there, and it's funny just to.
Well, you're a great coach, Lawrence. Let me tell you what. I said earlier, back to Mohammed's point. Mohammed, you made a great point earlier about servant leadership. Let me tell you what. It's very interesting. By and large, it's kind of interesting. Let's think about this as all coaches, right? So what are the traits that are lagging? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Helper traits lagging. Yet if you look at the data, and you'll see this, the most mature trait in the database is the helper trait. So what did I say earlier? The engine seems not to be igniting in leaders globally, yet there's beauty on the inside, okay? So as coaches, when you discover this, we got to work with our leaders to embrace the power of the heart and showing it authentically to people. It's what's missing. Certainly, I think the pandemic has reinforced that. We have an opportunity here. The other traits that lagging is the activist trait at 36. No, I'm sorry, the artist trait at 36, which is the creativity and what do we say about innovation, Hadi, right? Companies are looking for, hey, we got to get innovative. We got to get innovative. Well, how are you going to get innovative if you don't even have traits that are igniting, right? You're not going to see the behavior of innovation, right? It's not happening. So if you have a senior executive team, and we do this a lot, and you look at the aggregate MLEI results, right? And you see, boy, what's going on here? The artist trait's not igniting. And they're sitting there saying, we got to create a culture of innovation. It's not going to happen unless we can move the needle with respect to each and every one of you. You know what I'm saying? By the way, Pushpa, I didn't mention this, but your most mature trait is your perfectionist trait.
Yes.
And here's perfectionism. People think perfectionism is a problem, but actually there's a good side. Here it is. Tell me if I'm wrong about this. Ethical. Pushpa, you're ethical big time. That starts deep within the soul. Character. Ethical behavior comes from character. So I already know with your scores, 0.567, everybody, off the charts. You're ethical. You are reliable. People rely on you and you follow through every time. Every time. You don't miss. And you're very, very self-disciplined. When you see low maturity on the perfectionistic trait, which you will see with your clients, you are hypothetically dealing with rigidity, inflexibility, and a mentality of, you know what self-righteous means, Pushpa? I'm right, you're wrong. That's perfectionism bad. That's not you. You have a lot of beautiful stuff going on here, Pushpa. And, you know, you got a masterpiece going. I think what we do is we work together.
Yes.
And we continue to put the pieces in place to create that masterpiece. Because you know something? You know, when you're gone, because you're going to leave the earth, right? We're all going to leave the earth. When you leave the earth, the beautiful thing about masterpieces is you leave something that future generations can be enriched with. You deserve that.
Thank you so much. Today I will not sleep.
Boom.
Thank you so much.
Anyway, you're getting a little glimpse of how I work a little bit too. I don't do it like that all the time, but I just want to be kind of reflect the energy, you know, that you know. So anyway, thank you, Pushpa. Thank for your
Thank you so much.
outstanding, and I hope that helped a little bit, everybody. How do you feel about stuff? Do you feel like you got something here? You may not. You might sit here and say, "Whoa, man, gonna need some time with this." We've had many, many coaches leave this program and say, "John, it was incredible. There's no way I can do an MLEI debrief next week." And we've actually tested this. And let me tell you what, if you follow the debrief guide, which would take some work. I mean, you got to read the book and so on and so forth. And we actually tested you, Nicholas, and we said, Nicholas, in 7 days, we're going to give you an executive to coach on the MLEI. You need to do a debrief. Let me tell you what, you would do a great job. Okay? You would do, not the job that I'm going to do, but you would absolutely be able to do a fantastic debrief with an executive just by like preparing for an exam. You know what I'm saying? So you can do it. We've seen it before. Obviously, when you move to level 2, what Sue does role plays and right, boom, 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 you know, you get much more comfortable at level 2. But listen, you have the ability as coaches right now. If you don't go to level 2, you've got the materials to do the MLEI. Okay. So, all right. I think what we should do is let's grab Lawrence from France has a question.
Yes, please. Could you give us an example to better understand the difference between maturity and high level in any traits? And my question is, what is the difference between getting more maturity and getting a higher score in any traits? You know, maturity is not clear for me.
Okay, so maturity, yeah, that's a great question. So here's what I would say would be high levels of maturity, okay, in general. Let's talk about self-image. Balanced self-image. As soon as you get outside the standard deviations of what's acceptable, low self-image, overactive ego, you're eroding maturity. So let's think about maturity, though. Let's define maturity. What is maturity? Let's think about our children. What do we want to teach our children? We want to teach our children to be mature, correct? How do we do that? We teach them to be hungry to learn for the rest of their lives, right? People who are hungry to learn, that's an element of maturity. Number two, we want to teach our children to have resilience and the ability to handle change, right? Everybody with me on this? Agility, the word agility, Lawrence, with respect to learning, change, and one more, relationships, the ability to work with all kinds of people in the world, being nimble and agile with respect to people. If we can teach our children that, lo and behold, they mature into mature adults, right? Same thing in the world of executive leadership. So what's interesting is what leads to maturity and nimbleness with respect to those three things is balanced ego, impeccable character, courage, working hard. Larry, showing gratitude to others. Nicholas, being honest to others. Shalini, being loyal to others. And modesty. You see what I'm saying? Character, impeccable. Value system that embraces the values of worthy achievement, moving the needle that improves the world, worthy achievement. Somebody mentioned altruism, or Shalini, I think you mentioned altruism, the value of altruism, embodying, living, role modeling altruism. Beautiful value. Affiliation, relationships. And we all know, listen, if your value system is off, your behaviors are off, right? If you're focused in on money, for example, right? And there's a lot of people who are misplaced, right? You see what I'm saying? Lawrence, thinking patterns, positive, not pessimism, optimism. Emotional balance, a belief system that is, I can execute, I will execute, I must execute. There you go. I mean, you know, if you've got an inner core that looks like that, you got maturity on the inner core. You know what I'm saying? And that's what the MLEI measures. It's not perfect by any stretch, but it's going to give you some glimpse into your clients. Hey, maybe this value system's off a little bit, or maybe their emotional balance is off, especially if you get a 360 where everybody says this person's a tyrant. They're a tyrant to work with, right? So that bad cholesterol, guess what? Is not corralled. It's flowing to the outer core. The world's experiencing it. We got to stop it. We got to make sure that we work together. We cannot have this happen. There you go. Does that help?
Yes. Thank you.
Amazing. You're a great coach, Lawrence. All of you are. It's incredible. What a great team here. Fantastic. I know there's a lot here, but I'm glad we got through this. This is important stuff, really important. There would be no JMG or IL without the MLEI. I got to be honest with you. You know, I didn't see it, Nicholas, in 1996. I didn't see it. But, you know, and I'm glad we don't sell the instrument either, you know, in the marketplace. There's a lot of companies out there that sell their instruments and, you know, and then it's misused. We don't feel comfortable because there is complexity here, you know, and we feel like with you as coaches kind of carrying it on, you know what I'm saying? It leads to more validity in the marketplace. So we would never do it. It's for our family. You know what I'm saying? It's for our family. But here's the thing. You want to also use Hadi. You got to use the other instruments too, right? So use the MLEI, maybe do whatever, CPI 260. We love the CPI 260. And you typically want to do 2 or 3. And then you look at because there's going to be a lot of corroborative evidence, right, with these score, but you're also going to see some discrepancies too. So, but it's important to do 2 or 3, just like when you go to the doctor. Doctor's not going to do 1 test; they're going to do 2 or 3 to mitigate risk. Got to mitigate risk. Okay. Let's take a break here. Just breathe for a second. Final questions, comments. Was this helpful? Beautiful. Nicholas?
So one question, what's the number of a bad cholesterol? I mean, is a negative number or near 0, or when we have to?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you'll see in the report that there's bands of maturity. So 0.4 and above is really, really good. I was working with a CEO in Switzerland a few years ago before the pandemic, and I can share his name. His name's Wendelin Zellmeyer, and he was running a cancer foundation. What a wonderful guy. Called me and said, listen, I'm 61 years old. Feel like I'm a really good CEO. I want to get better, So that's what happened, Nicholas. So I flew over to Zurich, and we had a year to work together. It was incredible. So we went to dinner one night, right? And he goes, "Hey, John, I got the MLEI. I scored, this guy scored 0.527, right? And it was funny. And he didn't do any reading on the MLEI. He goes, "So what does this mean? What does it mean? 0.527. I said, "Wendell, you scored at the time the highest ever in the database." I said, "Wendell, and you're incredible, 0.527. He looks at me and goes, "Okay. Well, what's the highest I could have scored?" I said, "Wendell, plus 0.8. He looked at me and goes, "I got a long way to go. I'm glad I hired you." That's what he said. Right? So anyway, I even forget the question, Nicholas. What was your question? I've lost my mind here. What was the question?
Sorry, the opposite side. I mean, when we have to take a look of the bad cholesterol.
Okay, excellent. So basically, you'll see this, 0.3 to 0.4, high average, 0.2 to 0.3, average. Back to you, Hadi. You keep thinking about the stats, right? You're going to see in the debrief guide all the percentile rankings for not only each trait, but aggregate, okay? Because your client's going to want to know that, So, for example, on the arbitrator trait, 0.333 is a high average, but the percentile ranking in the database is going to be different than the helper trait. So that's going to be important. You'll see that. So Nicholas, long story short, in general, right? Even somebody scoring 0.1 to 0.2 is low average. That's not the red zone. Typically, the red zone is below a 0.1. Definitely when you've got a negative, you need to look at it, okay? With the help of your client, because your client's going to give you some context, right? And talk about it. But your hypothesis as a coach is, there might be some bad cholesterol here we need to explore. So you see what I'm saying? So 0.1 and below, you want to circle those. Definitely anything negative, you want to circle. Does that help?
Thank you. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, everybody, listen. Amazing. I think we've reached a good point to end today. Tomorrow, we're going to move into, I think you're going to love day 3. If you don't mind, I might go another hour tomorrow. How do you feel about that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because I don't want to shortcut anything. We're on time, but I want to give you ample time to see the Google Drive. Okay. What I'm going to show you is the Google Drive that is my Google Drive. The Google Drive that you're going to get after the program, you're going to be blown away with, that we've put together for our coaches. we get about 2,000 pages that you're going to have, which really reflects now you're in the family, right? The IP that's going to enable you to do all of this stuff, right? You got a lot of stuff that you've got to be able to do great work as a coach. You know, and so I want to show you that tomorrow. But I also want to get into the process more. I want to do a debrief. I want to show you how to do the ILDP sharing. I want to show you Leader Watch. I want to show you all this stuff tomorrow. Okay. Mohammed.
Yes, John, I was just wondering, tomorrow, we're going to see any role play by any chance?
2. Yeah, you bet. Yeah, you're going to see this stuff come alive. It's going to be great. So listen, everybody, no homework tonight. Just relax, you know. Lawrence, you got a question?
And do we start an hour earlier or do we continue at the end 1 hour longer?
If
What
you
is
don't
your
mind,
idea?
yeah, let's start at the same time. We'll go, you know,
Okay.
it may not be a full hour, probably, you know, maybe 30, 45 minutes max.
For me, it's all perfect. For me, it's all
Yeah,
perfect.
if we go another hour, if you got to go, I understand, you know, we're going to record it and so on and so forth. But I think tomorrow we got a great chunk. We'll do a couple breaks, maybe shorter, maybe 5 minutes, and then we'll do another 10-minute, right? And that's it. Did you enjoy today?
Absolutely. Thanks.
Amazing. You guys are great. Go take care of yourselves, all right? See you tomorrow.
Thank
We'll
you
be
so
there.
much.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye,
Jeff.
everyone.
Thank you all
Bye.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you.